This video details the recipe for one of Greece's national dishes, Stifado, in which onions are the key ingredient. So, let's go over the ingredient list. First off, some beef cut into large cubes. I've used 1.5 pounds of beef cut into 6 large pieces. Next, we have the onions. The rule of thumb is 2 onions per cube of meat, so I used 12 small onions, cleaned and peeled. Then we have a good tablespoonful of tomato paste, which we will dilute in 1.5 cups of water before adding it to the pot. And of course, some oregano. A generous tablespoonful or so is necessary to offset the flavor of the onions. Also, we need to have some whole garlic cloves. I used 6 large cloves along with 4 spice cloves and a half stick of cinnamon. Then we have 2 tablespoonfuls of Greek wine vinegar and, of course, some extra virgin olive oil. 1/3 of a cup to half a cup is recommended. Now, I should mention that you can use a sweet red Greek dessert wine called mavrodaphni instead of the wine vinegar, as that variation is popular in some regions of Greece, but the wine vinegar is pretty much the standard way to prepare the meal. Finally, we have the salt and pepper. I use Greek sea salt and only fresh ground pepper, and I add these to taste. Now, we are going to need a large pot in which we will cook this meal, so let's go over to the stovetop. First off, we are going to brown the meat in the olive oil, so make sure that the heat is turned up to a medium-high heat, and then add the olive oil. Once the olive oil has heated up, we can add the meat. As soon as the meat is in the pot, we need to start stirring the cubes repeatedly to ensure that they don't stick to the pot and that each side of the cubes is lightly browned to seal in the natural juices of the meat. Pay careful attention to each individual piece to make sure you brown it on all its sides. Once the meat has been lightly braised, we can proceed to the next step, which is to add the tomato paste that has been diluted in 1.5 cups of water. If you prefer, you can use fresh tomatoes instead of the tomato paste. Just make sure to peel, dice, and strain them using a tomato strainer to remove the seeds. At this point, we want to quickly bring the contents of the pot to a boil, so make sure to turn up the heat to high. Next, we add the wine vinegar, or the mavrodaphni wine if you prefer, to the pot. Now we come to the main ingredient in our stifado, the onions. You need to make sure that the onions are small. In Greece, you can actually buy what are called stifado onions that are the perfect size for preparing this dish. It is important that the onions are small so they will end up tender and ultimately melt in your mouth when done. At this point, we also add the whole garlic cloves to the pot. And then we give the contents a good stirring to ensure that the sauce is well mixed and has a chance to coat everything. Then we add the spices, starting with the oregano. I like to use dried Greek oregano as it has a distinctly robust flavor, and I like to keep things as authentic as possible. Then we add the Greek sea salt, which is entirely natural. Natural sea salt is a healthy replacement for ordinary table salt, as it contains about 80 mineral elements that the body needs. Next, we add the fresh ground pepper. I like my stifado peppery, so I always add a few extra twists of the peppermill to the pot. Then we add the cinnamon stick, and finally, the 4 cloves. Now, we give the pot's contents another good stirring to make sure the sauce and spices mingle well. And then we cover the pot and turn down the heat to a medium-low level, and we allow it to simmer for approximately 1 hour. Once the cooking is done, the stifado can be served with some fresh white bread and a salad. Kalli όρεξη!